Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Daily Democracy Report. Today is Wednesday, April 9th, and today we're talking about the tariff war. I mean, what else is there to talk about? It's a crazy day out there. Um, Although the stock market seems to be doing okay so far, which is good news. So at least our 401ks won't get hit too hard as a result. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of craziness here going on today. So we're going to talk about tariffs. I got a bunch of clips to show you, and we can discuss those and then kind of yeah, see what's going on in the world today. So before we get to all that, though, you can check out the ticker at the bottom of the screen there. So you like and subscribe if you like the content that I'm bringing you. And follow us on Blue Sky and support the channel at buymeacoffee.com. If you're watching on anything other than your cell phone, you can snap that QR code down in the left corner there, and you can get to buymeacoffee.com very easily right to our site. So would appreciate that. So, and again, ticker at the bottom, show you everything. So let's discuss what happened overnight here. So overnight, Trump's reciprocal tariffs on pretty much everybody went into effect, as well as additional tariffs on China. That makes the tariffs on China goods at 104%, which is nuts. In response, China this morning announced another 50% tariffs to make that 84% of tariffs on U.S. goods entering China. So, really, China can probably weather this storm way better than we can. We depend on trade with China much more than they depend on trade from us. Although it will hurt them. They seem to be in this for the long haul. And I believe they said till the end they will be fighting these tariffs. So, not sure how this is going to go, but we're going to talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer was before the Senate Finance Committee. Can show you what we have a couple senators that we're talking to him, asking him some questions and what his answers are. We've got a about manufacturing and stuff like that. If that's the goal, to bring manufacturing back, what does that mean? And we're also going to talk about a CNN post with Erin Burnett, where she talks to an economics professor, Brent Nyman, whose formula apparently was used for all these reciprocal tariffs that we're seeing today. So talk about that too. And also want to talk about all this stuff in addition to the really big one, I think, is the poor penguins on the herd in McDonald Islands. It's tragic for them. They're going to have to bear this tariff storm as well. That pretty much, is Trump making sure that nowhere on earth is safe from King Trump and his band of tariff police. So it's crazy. It's nuts. And apparently there's reasons for these islands that have no inhabited people on them to get hit with tariffs. Not sure what that is, and nobody can really explain it. So let's get into it, I guess. Let's see. We'll get to our first clip here. Let me get this kind of ready to go. This is with Bernie Sanders, who's one of my favorites. I love anytime Bernie has something to say. And let's cue this up for us here. So again, this is let me bring the screen up. So this is Bernie Sanders, and he's talking with this U.S. Trade Rep Jamieson Greer. Let's play the first clip. These are some of these are shorter, some are longer, but we'll talk about this after the clip. Oh, maybe we won't hear it. Hang on for a second. Let me make sure that we fix this up. My bad. Need to hit the right. think that's where we want to be. Okay. Technical malfunction. I'll back this back up. And let's try this again. This is the joy of being live. Here we go.
I want to move to an area to talk about the legal basis of what President Trump has done. President Trump said, Mr. Greer, that he had no choice in terms of Canada.
Okay, so what Bernie's talking about here is, just to set this up better than I have been setting up these clips probably, is the legal basis for Trump to be able to just throw tariffs on everybody in the world. Normally this is reserved for like a wartime thing or something of that nature. You know, or something like the fentanyl crisis, right? So having fentanyl pouring into the country or something, it creates like a crisis in America, and that's justification for what he's doing. So here, let's keep going.
And I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. He had no choice but to bypass Congress and to impose an emergency 25% tariff on Canada to stop, quote, the massive, end quote, amount of fentanyl and, quote, the millions and millions of undocumented immigrants coming from the northern border.
Millions and millions.
Unfortunately, that's a lie. The truth is that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported just 43 pounds of fentanyl was seized at the Canadian border last year, representing just 0.2% of the total. Now, we could agree that 1 pound of fentanyl is too much. But if 0.2% constitutes an emergency, my guess is illegal drugs are coming in from every country in the world. And that gives the President of the United States incredible power to determine tariffs. Further, he said he talked about millions and millions of undocumented immigrants coming from Canada. In fact, last year there were 24,000 people, not millions and millions.
So 24,000 people came running over the border from Canada to the United States. Not millions and millions. Not a ton of, you know, fentanyl coming over, but like Bernie said, and I completely 100% agree, 1 pound is too much. But in the case that Bernie will make is that much drugs are probably coming in from almost any country in the world to the United States. So does that justify we can just gives Trump the blanket authority to do whatever the hell he wants? It's kind of the gist of where Bernie was going with this. Let's fast forward here. Get to our next part of the clip. I'm not doing very well with my switching today, so you had to bear with me. Let's see. We are at... Okay, I think we're in the right spot now. All right, here we go.
That's for sure. Do you really think that he has the power under an emergency degree
This is Trump.
to reorder the trade world, global trade policy, without any input from the United States Congress?
Sir, Congress gave him this law where if he determines a national emergency, he can take appropriate action to regulate imports. That's what he's done.
And you think it's a national emergency that 0.2% of fentanyl coming from Canada constitutes a national emergency?
Sir,
Do you?
The president has determined
Do
that
you?
Canada...
I'm asking you. You're
Oh,
not...
you're asking me about drug policy. So I agree with the president. If you have China and Canada and Mexico putting drugs into this country at different levels, then that's an emergency. We have to deal with it.
Look, we're not going to
can't sit
argue
around
about the
anymore,
danger of drugs. 43 pounds of fentanyl. On that basis, the president can declare an emergency with any country on earth and take unlimited power. That's called authoritarianism.
And Bernie's not wrong. That is, I agree with him 100% on that. It is an authoritarianism concept. It's what he's doing. It's kind of how this government is running at this point, which is sad. But he's not, like I said, he's not off base there. But yeah, somehow Congress is kind of letting them get away with this stuff, and it's very odd as to how that actually works. Our next clip here goes into a little bit more. This is Senator Catherine Cortez Mastro. She's a Democrat from Nevada. she's talking about the negative effects on tariffs with U.S. trade rep again, Jameson Greer, who's getting questioned a lot here. So let's zip up to where our clip is on this one. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay, here we go. So this clip, kind of about the USMCA, that is what NAFTA turned into under Trump's first term. And this is the trade agreement that he set up with Mexico and Canada. And, this is the U.S. Mexico Canada agreement, I think is what USMCA stands for. And so she's just grilling him on, well, couldn't all this have been negotiated within that already existing agreement that we have? And let me go to... There we go.
Stop the flow, particularly of like autos into the United States.
But there was a process for you to renegotiate that agreement this year. We talked about that in my office. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And it wasn't to do these blanket tariffs, correct?
What we have to address is an emergency, Senator.
That's true. And you should be honest. At least as you sit here, as you were in my office, be intellectually honest. Now, let me just ask this, because this is also true. And I so appreciate my Senator Langford asking this. Time matters. How long did it take to negotiate that agreement, the USMCA, that you were part of?
We did it at breakneck speed. We did it in about 2 years.
2 years. And now you're telling us you have nearly 50 countries coming to you, approaching you to enter in a negotiation. And you think that you can do that overnight?
All right. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, what kind of deals are they going to get that quickly overnight? And, it's just, I think it almost seems like, and I could be wrong here, that all these people almost seem like they're way over their head here as far as all these negotiations and the tariffs and all this stuff. Like, let's just throw all this shit out there and blast the world with it. And maybe we can reel in some good deals here and there, and everybody else is like just swimming in crap or something. It just doesn't make any sense. And all the while, all this chaos is ensuing around the world and in our country. We're the ones that are paying for it. I mean, other countries are paying for it, but us as Americans, us everyday people, we're the ones that are suffering for this. And it just seems like they don't really have a whole lot of concrete answers as to what this end game looks like and how it all gets resolved in the end. So that's kind of the scary part here. Let me forward a little bit here. We're going to yep. Okay. So this one here is so the senator here from Nevada, she is in a more services type of state, right? A lot of their revenue comes in from tourism, and that services are kind of amusement, entertainment kind of industry is what fuels a lot in her state. And so that's what she really cares about, what her constituents care about. So this is what she's trying to talk about here. So I think I set this right. Yep. All right. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
Let me just say this. I'm kind of offended by your testimony today that says we must accept self-inflicted economic pain, and I quote you by saying, to become an economy based on producing real goods and services. What does that mean? What does that mean to my service industry and every service industry across this country that relies on tourism and travel? That is the backbone, really, of part of our $1 billion economy. What do I tell them? That they just have to suck it up? That they're not really part of this real services? That you have another idea for the jobs that they should engage in? What do I tell them?
Oh, Senator, of course those are real services. The whole,
So what are you doing about the impact what are you doing about the impact of international tourism and now these blanket tariffs having a negative impact? What are you doing to address that?
The whole sentence, Senator, said that we need to get away from government spending as funding our economy and financialization, and we need to move to real goods and services, including the tourism you're talking about.
So
It's
what are you doing
incredibly
to impact the
important.
negative impact of tourism right now?
Well, one thing I'll say is we can't have the status quo, right? I keep hearing that we should have, essentially what I'm hearing is we should have the status quo. We should keep the $1.2 trillion trade deficit that Biden left us
I'm
with.
asking you,
This guy really doesn't have an answer here.
I don't think that's adequate.
what are you doing in this administration to address now the impact that you're having with these blanket tariffs, not targeted tariffs, blanket tariffs on international tourism that is a big impact to our economy? What are you doing to address that?
Well, Senator, as we're talking to all of these countries, we are talking about services. We are talking about making sure that we can export services to other countries. A lot of those that we export are, we have
Well, let
digital
me say I only have
services,
so
all
much
kinds
time,
of
and
trade.
apparently you're not. So here's what I would like, because you haven't thought about this, and the administration hasn't really thought about it, because I haven't heard anybody talking about tourism.
So she's right. They haven't really thought about it. They haven't thought any of this through. They, like I said before, they're just throwing tariffs on everybody. It doesn't make sense as to how they're doing it or why they're doing it this way. There are already agreements in place, like we talked about before, that could have been renegotiated. If there were bad things happening on one end or the other, then you negotiate those and you figure out, what's best for each party, and you go from there. This is just chaotic, and it is really having a massive bad effect on things. And if you haven't felt it yet, it's coming. I read an article earlier that one of the electric car makers, Rivian, one of their vehicles, not all of them, but one of them has gone up by $1,000. Now, that might not seem like a lot because I think the vehicle is worth 80 some thousand anyway. So $1,000 is kind of like a drop in the bucket, but it's going to happen. And a lot of the prices of everyday things, like your fruits and vegetables and perishable items that you get every day, are going to be the ones that are going to be happening very quickly. There's prices will most likely go up, and we're going to start feeling the effects of those things. Now, billionaires could care less. I mean, I still think of, when Trump was saying, I think he was even on the campaign trail and since then as well, he's talking about groceries. It's like, groceries, a term that nobody ever uses. What? The fuck are you talking about? Everybody talks about groceries. I mean, do you call it a supermarket now? And the big, beautiful supermarket where I assume food is, because I've never been in one, that's the way Trump thinks. But you go to a grocery store and you buy groceries. Hasn't changed since I've been alive, and I'm over half a century old now. I don't understand. They're so detached from the everyday, just everyday people in the United States, and going to the grocery store is something that you do, and you buy groceries, and when those prices go up, you feel it. And I'm not going to defend Biden either, because, I think one of the major things that was a problem for Kamala Harris was not addressing the everyday things like the cost of items going up, inflation. It wasn't addressed enough. It wasn't presented to the American people about how that was going to get fixed and what that means. So I'm not defending Biden or Kamala Harris, and I'm definitely not defending Donald Trump, because he said that on day one prices are going to go down. He is going to lower prices, and this is you'll never believe how fast all this shit's going to get fixed. And here we are with things getting worse. Even though the stock market is looking decent today, that doesn't mean that prices at the grocery store, supermarket, whatever you want to say, and everyday things that you're going to buy aren't going to be affected, because prices will go up if this trade war continues. And even if it all gets resolved magically sooner than later, the effects of this are still going to are still going to happen. So anyway, I believe that was the last clip I wanted to play from that. Next one up. Let me make sure that I can cue this one up. So this is from CNN, and this is Abby Phillip, and she has her normal, well, not normal panel, but she does have a panel of folks on there. We're not going to talk to or have all of them talk, but I wanted to get to one part here, and I forget what this gentleman's name is, but it'll be up on the screen. Michael Singleton is a political commentator, definitely on the Republican side, which inherently isn't a problem. Go to, where am I at on this one? 4 minutes? Okay. So what he is going to argue here is that the point to all these tariffs and the pain that people are going to feel, and we're all told that, there's going to be a lot of pain. It's going to be pain before it gets better, and all this kind of stuff. And that this is all, we're going to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and it's going to be great. It's going to be like 1890 when Trump's hero of tariffs saved or whatever it was. But it was a way different time back then. And that's kind of going to come through in this clip here. So let me play the clip. We'll talk about it on the back end.
And so Donald Trump focusing on trying to level set, to your point, and bring back some level of manufacturing, even if it's modernized, not going back to the 80s or 90s, I think is a good thing.
Even if it's robots?
It could potentially benefit those working class
even
people.
if it's robots? I mean, if it's robots doing these jobs, then what's the point?
Abby, chip manufacturing, you got to bring some of that back to the United States.
I know, I get that.
We're not at a place where machines can repair themselves when they're damaged. You need to have a skilled workforce being able to take care of those things.
But do you understand my point, Michael, is that we are increasingly about to be in an economy where a lot of these jobs that he wants to bring back are not going to be done by humans. Maybe there will be one or two overseeing the robots, but they've acknowledged that. Bessent and Howard Lutnick have both said that over the last few days. Automation, AI, robots are going to replace most humans in those jobs.
And that's 100% correct. So, yes, we may get some manufacturing back in the United States. But how many people is that really going to employ? I mean, when you really, really think about it, it's a fraction of what you would have got in 1890, right? 1890, you needed somebody turning a screw. You needed somebody to assemble an engine by hand. You needed multiple people there. There was so much difference between that time that Donald Trump wants us to get back to somehow and this time now. You cannot even say with any degree of certainty, I think that was the last clip, yeah. So you cannot even say with any degree of certainty that an American-made car is an American-made car. That car has parts from all over the world, regardless of where it's assembled, where the steel comes from, where the aluminum comes from, where the plastic is molded. It is a world market these days. And so a lot of things have changed over the years. And this type of mentality, although good, I mean, I can see, the bright side of having manufacturing plants like that here in the United States. That's fine. But along with that, you're not really gaining as much as you would have gotten before. So the pain doesn't necessarily equal what the promise is going to be in the end. So I guess you can chew on that. That's my opinion. Take with it what you will. But this last one here, I think is, this last clip is with Erin Burnett from CNN. And she is, she's interviewing this economics professor, Brent Nyman. Let me cue this up real quick. And So these clips kind of speak for themselves. So this guy created this formula that the White House has shown, that the Trump administration has shown as to how they're getting to their reciprocal tariffs. And what they're trying to do with these reciprocal tariffs is they're trying to say that, okay, although, they may charge 10%, we may charge 10%, they're not buying the same amount of goods that we are buying from them, which could make sense. And the professor is going to explain that a little bit better. But, if you buy a car from one country, and then they buy like what do we have to sell them? Maybe all they need from us is I don't know, wheat, say. That doesn't, so this formula is supposed to calculate like that difference, right? That difference in the goods that are sold, not just like what the tariff rate is. And then you can just say, okay, now we're going to charge you this much tariffs because now we're getting exactly what you're getting monetarily wise, which doesn't really make any friggin' sense. And I think it's a bad model. It's bad to try to model tariffs that way. So anyway, enough of me talking. Let's hear what they have to say. Here we go. I have 2 clips to play from this one.
List, maybe even Europe. But I was surprised to see, like you said, Sri Lanka, Jordan is on the list, Zambia is on the list. And the reason is just because, we happen to buy a lot of textiles and jewelry and coffee from those countries, and they don't buy that much, high-tech equipment or, gas turbines, like you said. And so, I think it's a mistaken philosophy to even try to calculate reciprocal tariffs the way that the way that they did. And that.
So that's just kind of the point I was trying to make before. He probably said it way better than I did. But it makes sense, right? You cannot use this formula to try to determine the differences of cost either way, depending on who buys what from whom. Just not really supposed to work that way. So let me get farther up in the video here, and not too far ahead, actually. Probably could just let that play. All right, so here is when they're going to go over the formula and plug in the numbers that the White House did, and then plug in the numbers that they probably should have put in, and let's let's take a look. This is mind-boggling to me that this is what happened. So here we go.
So let's talk about that cascade, because it comes down to the equation. They put this equation out that looks like it could have come from Einstein. This complicated equation, we'll throw it up. I mean, this is the sort of stuff you don't know you would see in econometrics or something like that. But it's a very fancy looking equation. It essentially boils down to you're going to take the difference between the exports and imports of a country, right? And you're going to calculate your tariffs based off of that. That's the essential thing. And then just your bottom line on this formula, is it good or no?
Yeah, so the formula is definitely not good. That was the point I was making, is even the derivation of the formula, no matter what they do with it, I think it is not good.
So he doesn't even like the formula in this scenario.
Trade policy. But they went further. You do still have to plug some numbers into it.
So let's do that. Okay, because I said, hold on, while you're talking here, I said.
Okay, so this is brilliant. I like this. This is what more people in the news need to do. And so really hats off to Aaron Burnett for getting the whiteboard out and a marker and trying to follow along here with this math, because I think that shows Americans this is what's happening here. And we need more of this kind of hand-holding thing, because I don't think the average American is, even if the average American is watching this, which I don't know what Aaron Burnett's ratings are, but they're probably, I don't know, good enough maybe. But anyway, and that's why I'm here too, to talk and maybe get some of this to more people that maybe haven't seen it on CNN, and to talk about it some more. But what she's doing here, I think, is just great. It's really dumbing it down for the rest of us to understand what the hell was in this formula, because I did see the formula on TV before, and I was like, okay, maybe I can write this down and try to figure out what they were trying to do here. But but this is great. So let's carry on here.
That I had my sheet, so I put it on a whiteboard. As you and I discussed, I might try to do, just to try to make sense of it, okay? So this is where we are, all right? We took Japan, because Trump's been talking a lot about Japan. Brent, you went through Japan. So he got a 46% tariff. That day when he stood up there, 46% came up. So I've got the numbers here, the difference between the exports and imports. I filled in all the numbers. There's one number here, though, I'm going to put in red. That is 0.25. That's your number. That's the number. Well, that's the number they say is your number, right? And when you take that number, that's the magic number, I put it in red, and you plug it into their equation, you get 46%.
Well, close, but not quite. The number that we would put, that I would put, based on my research in for that value is 0.95.
Okay.
And that differs from the one that they used, like you said, which was 0.25. You know, the difference is almost a factor of 4.
Yep. So you put 0.95,
mathematically,
then what happens to the 46?
Right. So, you know, if you change a number in the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction, by a factor of 4, you're going to reduce the equation, the left-hand side, the tariff, by a factor of 4. So specifically, you know, when Trump held up that sign and it had a 46 for Japan, you know, if you instead used 0.95, which is what I think my research motivates, you know, you'd get a number like 12%.
Yeah. So, so they definitely did it wrong. You know, a 12% tariff as opposed to 46% seems a lot more reasonable. And that would be something that a lot of people would probably be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And Japan may say, okay, yeah, you got us. That makes sense. But 46%, yeah, unreal. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of play that for you so you can know, or at least have an idea of how badly this administration seems to be like just screwing the shit out of this thing. It doesn't seem well thought out. It doesn't seem like there's been a lot of you know, brilliant minds involved in all of this. It's just like, let's take some formula, let's throw some numbers in there, and let's not check them, but let's just get it out there. So unreal, unbelievable. But that's what's going on right now today. Kind of looking at the stock market ticker here, and looks like the S&P is up 0.62% right now. The Dow is up 0.45%. The NASDAQ's way up at 1.44%. Even Tesla is doing well at plus 11. So, or they're at about 5% up today. So everybody seems to be going up a little bit. Crude oil is down. Gold is really going up. It's up 3.8. So that's good. I think it's 3.8. Yep, 3.8. So that's good. So market seems to be adjusting to this new normal, unfortunately. But maybe that'll be good. We'll see how that ends up today. Hopefully it can just ride out for the rest of the day. We still got 3.5 hours that the market is open until it closes at 4. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this is a good day for the market. And with all that, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. I think I'm going to just try to stick to one topic per day. It is so hard. I just want to let everybody know it is very difficult to try to pick like one topic out of all the chaos that's happening, and just to focus on that. But you know, in today's news, this is where we're at. I mean, I have you know, 5 days a week to bring you guys whatever news I think is newsworthy as what's going on with our democracy, what's going on with the state of things in our country, and I you know, it's hard to pick and choose right now, but today I think the most important thing on everybody's minds is money and tariffs. I think that's on everybody's mind for the last couple of years, actually. So so I wanted to just kind of show you, level set a little bit, and try to see where we're at. Hopefully you got a little bit out of that today. And yeah, and if you did like the content, once again, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to support the channel, you can please do so. at the buymeacoffee.com/the Daily Democracy Report. You can also do that on Blue Sky at the ticker below, and or at the with the scrolling text, I should say, below. So anyway, guys, thank you so much, guys, gals, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we will see you again tomorrow at noon Eastern time for another episode or another show. So thanks again. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.